Good evening and welcome to the January 11th edition of Black Authors Matter TV. And I am your host, Gwen Richardson. I'm joined by my co-host,
Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Good evening, everybody.
And we have another amazing show for tonight, like we always do. And before we get started, I have a few housekeeping notes. First, I'd like Rhonda to give us an update about her anthology. And is that still planning to come out in February?
Yes, we are still planning on February 18th. We are going through the editing process. There are some amazing stories that are going to be a part of this. And what I'm really happy with is I have not seen any two stories that are exactly alike. Everybody's coming with their originality, and they are hitting so many different points. I mean, we have stories about friendship. We have stories about SID, sudden infant death syndrome. We have a few children's stories in there. And I just think that everybody who reads this anthology is really going to be happy with the level of talent that is in this. We have some newcomers as well as some established authors. And I'm really excited. And I'm also excited that a few of the authors who are going to be a part of the anthology are actually are regular viewers of this show. So thank you very much, all of you, for supporting us and being a part of Black History Month, because that's what this anthology is all about. It's called A New Renaissance. And we were supposed to have the actual Black History Month literary weekend this year. But because of COVID, I made the difficult decision to cancel it, but we're still moving forward with the anthology. And so the sales from the anthology are going to benefit the 8th and 9th grade essay contest. And those applications are already on the street. You can go to my website, which I'll put into the chat, www.mtwimagesolutions.com. If you have an 8th or 9th grader who would like to take part of that essay contest. And then later on this spring, we'll be awarding our second Meet the World Image Solutions Graduating Seniors Scholarship. So I'm really excited. This book is going to do some amazing things, and I just can't wait to see it come to fruition. So thank you all for your support on that.
Well, and as we authors and those of you who are out there who authors know, when you have a new book, it never gets old. I mean,
absolutely.
Seeing your new book in print never gets old. Mm-hmm. Novelty never wears off. Now, maybe if you have 100 books or something like that, it might, but I know up to 13, it doesn't. And when people I know that have 50 or more, it doesn't for them either. So I'm going to save my announcements for the next break. And so we can bring on our first guest. Now, our first guest is an author with Strive Publishing. And Mary Terrace, the founder of Strive Publishing, was on the show last year, and they also participated in this past year's National Black Book Festival. So our first guest is one of the authors from Strive Publishing. She has a memoir, and her name is Colnese Hendon, and she's going to tell us about her memoir. Welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Uh-oh, I think you're still on mute, Colnese. There we go.
No matter how often I'm on Zoom meetings, it happens every time. It doesn't even happen. That's just part of it.
I always get caught with the hot mic. I mean, I'll take myself off of mute. But one time I was waiting for a meeting to start, and I'm just talking about my dining room table and how I'm going to exchange it. And then somebody said, "You're on a hot mic."
Oh At least you weren't talking about anybody in the meeting.
Yes, that's exactly I said.
Right, that's good.
Well, Colnese, thank you for being a guest, and you have a memoir. And tell us the title. Do you have a copy of your book with you?
I do. It's called Blend In or Fade Out.
Okay, turn it a little bit because it's a glare.
There we go, right there.
Okay, right there. Okay, blend in or fade out. And
I like the title. I can kind of see where you're going with that.
Well, actually, it's interesting because the artist, Barbara Thomas, is the artist who did the cover art.
Okay.
And so initially my book had a different title, and I don't think that's unusual. I think a lot of authors start their work with a title in mind. And so I had an idea for she's an artist. I have like one of her oil paintings, and I had talked to her a long time ago. I'm like, if I ever finish my book, I'd like you to do my cover. But I had a whole different picture in mind, but the picture did not match my title. And my title initially was Between a Black Rock and a Hard White Place.
Mm.
And so I let her read part of my memoir, and she happened to have sold this picture to a hairstylist, and she said this is the right picture because she drew this art. She's also, just ironically or coincidentally, she's also a biracial adoptee. And so she drew this picture with that whole idea of when you're adopted and probably biracial as well, you're you're living your life trying to blend into places that you sometimes cannot blend into. Um, but the title of her artwork was actually Fading Out and Blending In, and she said it's okay if you switch it up. So
Mm.
anyway, that's how I got my title, and that's how I got my art. And it does actually work better, I think, than the title that I had originally thought of. So it all worked out for the best.
It's good when you have when you have an open mind, because you already had this concept in mind, and because you were open-minded, you were able to let her show you her vision, and then it still aligned with what you had in mind.
Absolutely. And it's actually, I swear, it's like it was just made for me in this book. And something told me it's like they may ask me about this title, so have an answer ready.
Okay.
But,
You know us so well.
so so I don't know. It kind of does fit. It does fit, my book. So I'll tell you a little bit about it. I I started out, well, actually the story arc is about me finding out as a child, probably about 3 years old. My mom and dad told me I was adopted. And that planted a seed in my mind of wanting to find out who my biological parents are. So the story arc is that's where it begins, and then it ends with me actually meeting my biological parents. But along the way, and I remember my dad used to tell me, Colnese, you ought to write a book. And and I was like, yeah, because my life is way more interesting than anything I could ever make up, I think. I mean, I've been through a lot. So what you know how life is, sometimes when you don't get what you want, and there's a spiritual piece to my memoir as well, because it wasn't like as I was going through my life, it wasn't always a spiritual experience. But when I look back on my life, I can see where God was. I can see where I wasn't aligning my life with the will of God, and I can see what the consequences were. So when I was initially trying to find my birth mother, the records were sealed. And I found that out at a very young age because one day I just looked up the Hennepin County adoption, and I called and I asked, I told them, oh, I'm adopted. I want to find out who my mother is. They were like, oh, well, your records are sealed, and
Mm.
you can't find out. And I'm thinking I was around 8 years old because I was old enough to come home from school as a latchkey kid. Mom wasn't home from work yet. So I was old enough to kind of watch myself. My brother was a few years older, so we could come home from school and be there for a while. So anyway, it wasn't until I was about 15 when I had family. We every summer we would go on a family vacation to Chicago, Illinois, where my dad's side of the family lived, then Indianapolis, where his mom and stepfather lived, and we would go on to Ohio, where my mom's family lived. So this particular summer, every year when we would come, you know how family is, they want to take pictures and, kind of document the moment. So this was back in the day where they had Polaroid pictures. You had to wait, as they developed.
Okay.
And
Mhm.
so we were sitting there waiting for the picture to develop. And then they passed it around. And for some reason, I don't know why that was the year that it hit me, but I was sitting in the center of my dad's family, and all of my dad's side of the family, well, I should say, of course, every family has different shades and different variations of color. But my dad's side of the family is brown, dark brown skinned people. And then all of a sudden I noticed myself sitting in the center of everyone, and I just looked so out of place. You know, I looked at my complexion. Back then I had this huge Angela Davis afro. And I was so hurt when I noticed, you know, it was like, you know, you don't look like the family. And so the rest of that, and I promise to be quiet after a minute to let you get your questions in, because I could
No,
just
it's your
go.
story. This is your world.
So I had a little cousin named Pudgy, and he was my favorite cousin. And he's from Chicago, and we had all come down there together. And he's 6 years younger, and I used to carry him around on my back, take him to get candy, you know, the candy store. It was like we were tight because all my other cousins were much older. And so once I looked at this picture and I noticed my cousin Pudgy and his little brother and everybody blending in, looking like each other, and I didn't look like them. And you know, I just got very upset, and I just kind of shut down. And so I'm just going to get to the point. This is where I was saying I kind of went out of the will of God at this point in time, because I made up in my mind at 15 years old, if I can't find out who my biological family is because of sealed birth records, I know what I'll do. I'll have a baby of my own. And I don't think I'm alone in that with young teenage mothers. Teen mothers, you know, become pregnant for a lot of reasons. A lot of times, yes, it's an accident, you know, but sometimes it's intentional. And in my case, it was intentional. So I'm not going to go further. I'm going to stop right there. But that began kind of my path. Um, the path that I was on began to deviate from what my mom and dad had set out for me. My mom and dad, I couldn't ask for better parents. You know, sometimes I even question, you know, what right did I have to even look for my birth parents? You know, in a way, sometimes it's, even though it was a deep down need and desire within me, when I think about how good they were, and excuse me, I'm going to try to stay on target right here, but I had really good parents, and they did every single thing they could to give me a good life. So when I think about the fact that why did I have, you know, such a desire to find somebody who obviously did not want to find me, at least that's how I looked at it. You know, I felt like any mother who could give her child away, you know, why am I looking for this person? But it was something I can't explain. I think for people who grew up with their biological family, it's not something that you can really explain too much, but it was a deep down desire. So that's what set me on the path that I was on, you know, to have this baby, even though I wasn't too young to take care of it, you know. So yeah, so I don't know. I told myself today, it's like, tell the community a little bit about your book to get them interested, but don't tell your whole story, because then they're not gonna want to read it, because they're gonna be like, she just sat there and told us the whole story. So I'm trying to
Well,
walk
we
that
still don't
tightrope.
know all the details. I mean, you know,
Right.
you have to
And
read a book to find the
you
details.
have actually made people want to read it. I
Yeah,
mean, we have
yeah.
comments here saying that people can't wait to read your memoir just based on what you've said.
And it gets even more juicier. So I'll tell you a little bit more. So so the young man, I should say, who I fell in love with, um he they called him Blue because he was very dark skinned, and he was extremely well dressed, extremely athletic, just charming, had a big megawatt smile, and he melted my heart. And but that particular year, it was 1974, and 73 and 74, and I may get these years off just a bit, not much. The Mac, Superfly, those were the movies that came out.
Yes.
And every young man, I won't say every because I tend to exaggerate, let's say quite a few of the young men in my community decided that they wanted to be pimps. And he was the same way. He decided he wanted to be a pimp. And so our whole relationship switched from, childhood sweetheart to him trying to turn me out. But in between that, there was a tragic loss of our baby. I wanted this baby. This baby was kind of like my bridge to me having a biological connection. And it was my bridge to being able to fit in because he came from a very popular family. Um, his siblings, they were like known in the community. They could all dance, roller skate. You know how certain things in the neighborhood make you popular? They
Right.
dress nice. They all had cars, at a young age, and just a really popular family. And they were all like stair steps. So their house was like the teenage hangout. Everybody wanted to be around them. They were very well known. And I was excited that, this is my boyfriend and my baby's going to be part of this family because all of my relatives lived out of state. I grew up in Minnesota and all of my mom and dad's people lived somewhere else. That's why we went every summer. We went to visit relatives. So I didn't have any relatives in town outside of my brother. So when the baby was stillborn, he turned against me. It was like I think we were too immature. I was 16, he was 17, and losing a baby at any age is hard for any couple. But when you're a teenager, I just don't think you can't handle that type of grief. I certainly could not. And so anyway, that's kind of where I'll put a pin in it for now. Don't be surprised if I tell you more as we continue our conversation because it gets juicy. It's juice. I'm gonna be honest with you. One of my friends texted me when he found out that I was finally, because you know what, I'm embarrassed to tell you guys, I've been writing this book for like 30 years, but I started writing it way back, and even there's a few poems scattered throughout it when I lost my baby. I was always a writer, even in grade school. And when I lost my baby, I wrote poetry about it. When he rejected me, I wrote about it. I always wrote. So even though at that time I didn't know one day I'll write a memoir, I always saved the things that I wrote. And that's one of the things I like to say to any authors that are out there or want to be people who are writers but have not yet been published. I just want to encourage you to save your work, save whatever it is you write, because I always did. Call me a hoarder or whatever, but I always saved my writing because I liked what I wrote. I mean, it was meaningful to me, and what I found out when I got into this process of writing my memoir, a lot of those things that I had put to the side and didn't think anymore about, they are interwoven throughout this story because they were relevant. It turns out they became relevant as I began trying to look at what is my story. Because when my dad used to say, "Connie, you ought to write a book," and I wanted to, but I kept trying to figure out what is my story. It's like I've had lots of components to my story. This what I'm telling you guys about is just at the very beginning of my life. But throughout my life, I've lived different things, and I'm sure you guys can relate to this. Through life, very few people start at one place and stay on that same course. People change careers, people change relationships, people change uh, cities,
Locations.
yeah, locations. Yes.
Yeah.
And so yes, I didn't know what to write about, but it just suddenly came to me. I don't know how or when. It was through the process of writing when I was taking classes about like the story, because I had written. I'm more of a short story writer, and I'm more of a short pieces type of a person. So when I was trying to figure out how am I going to do something long, first of all, is difficult, and all of you who've done it know staying with it and trying to figure out where you're going when you're in it. And especially when you're writing about trauma, it's hard to stay focused because when you're writing about it, or even when you're even through this process of putting it together to submit for publishing, I had to relive it every time I reread it, to get it in shape, to even send out. And it was so dead. It's not like this anymore, audience, but it was so depressing at first for me to read. I had to revise it and add some happiness. I had to, because of course we focus sometimes and sad on the negative, but I had to inject some bright lights. But getting back to the Lord, okay, I have to bring God into it, because when I look back on my life and I look at how self-destructive I was, when I look at how violent I was at times and vindictive, and every negative emotion that comes out of feeling rejected, not only was I, in my opinion, I learned since that maybe that wasn't the case, but as before you know the answers, you tell your own self story. So I told myself the story that I was unwanted, that I wasn't worth
Yeah.
anything, my mom didn't want me, and that caused me to act in certain ways. So even to this day, I don't like rejection. I think anytime, I'm just making a gross generalization. I think people that have more stability in their psychological makeup, can be rejected and they might feel it, but then they let it roll off and keep going. Me, when I would feel rejected, I would lash out like very violently sometimes, because, and I've since learned this, that it's like reopening a trauma or a wound. It's like it would take me right back to that feeling of rejection. So I just looked at how the Lord brought me through, and I didn't know at the time He was bringing me through, but He was bringing me through in my darkest hours. He was giving me little um, breadcrumbs. Like at one point, I got a job at a daycare center, and the children loved me. Every day I come to work, oh, teacher's here, and just the love that they gave me. And so that's a small thing, but there's little lights, and I really encourage anyone, and I'm hoping that part of my reading audience will be people who have been heartbroken, who have fallen in love with someone who doesn't love them back, who has given up hope, who may have been suicidal, who may have lost their direction. I'm hoping that they will get something out of my story, because I didn't know it then, but now I know that, what, God, God will lead you out of dark places if you allow Him to do it. If you allow yourself to not be so self-destructive that you ruin your life before you can get to a better place. So
Well, I know
that's the message.
we're running out of time, but one question I did want to ask you, that was kind of in my mind as you were talking, is that, do you believe that writing the book was therapeutic for you as you were going through it? Or do you think that writing the book was because you had been through a therapeutic moment, with prayer and so forth, and you felt strong enough to write the book? So do you understand the difference?
I think I do understand what you're asking, and I do believe there's a little bit of both. I do believe writing the book was therapeutic, and I think that's why I always turn to writing to try, sometimes it's just to process things. And so yes, but I don't know, did I answer both? Because I know that was a two-part question.
Right. Well, yeah, I think you answered both. I was asked because, there are some people who write a book because they want to deal with the pain of whatever it is that they're writing about, while other people will write the book because they've been through it. They've been through the pain. They understand the pain, and now they want to write about it because maybe they want to help somebody else. So I just was wondering, which one of those was it for you? Were you
Yeah, I
writing
think,
because you
yeah,
wanted to deal with it?
I think I wrote, like I said, when I started writing it, I didn't know where it was going, but I wrote to process. But then now that I've written it and have completed it, now I hope it does help somebody. Now that I've kind of gotten through it and I've learned some lessons that I've tried to share through my writing, I hope and pray it does help somebody.
Well, one
Amen.
thing about your memoir process, which is good, you didn't, because you had been writing these little stories for many years, you didn't have to try to recall or recreate things from the past,
Mhm.
because details fade as time fades. We remember like the crucible, the impactful thing, but some of the details fade. And if they're written down, then it's a way to capture how you actually felt at the time, rather than trying to remember how you felt. But I know when we have traumatic things happen, the feelings, we do, as humans, we do retain that. And I think what you said you went through, I believe all humans want to know where they came from as far as
Right.
parentage. And those of us who know both of our parents, we don't have to look for that. But you just never know how people respond to not knowing. I know in our family, we found out when we were adults that we had a sister that my dad had when he was a teenager, before my parents got married. It was so, and she, we've talked to her. I mean, we have a relationship with her now, but we didn't grow up with her. So, we had to develop a relationship. And she tells about how she always wondered how it would be to be, in our family where, there were 4 siblings. My dad was very well known and respected. He was a pastor of the largest Black church in my city. So she said she grew up wondering how that was, even though she knew her mom, but she didn't grow up with our dad. She would see him. I think we didn't even know she existed. So she said she would see him from time to time. So
Yeah, I was blessed that I grew up with just one brother, and I always wanted a sister, and it turns out that I have 7 sisters. So it it
Wow.
was like my cup runneth over when I did find my biological family. It was like it was greater, in terms
So
of
it
number
was
and in
actually
terms
a
of
good thing for you that you looking for them, because you were able to answer a lot of questions that were in your mind, and you were able to disprove the story that you told yourself.
amen. Yes, that happened. And one thing I'll say, about Strive Publishing. So similarly to me searching all over, searching like for my biological family, when I found them, they're right in the same neighborhood where I grew up. They were there
Wow.
all the time. I used to run into my family and didn't know they were my family.
oh
And
wow.
my journey trying to find publishing, I traveled to DC, New York, I've been to Vermont, I've been to Italy, even trying to build connections and find agents and this and that. And then when I finally got published, it was through a publishing company right here in the Twin Cities, which is a wonderfully enriching experience. So it just goes to show you sometimes what you're looking for is it's just like the Wizard of Oz. It's right there in front of your face. You just have to open your eyes.
That's amazing. That you ran into family members and didn't know they were family members.
Wow.
My birth mother banked at the bank I worked at. My biological father, I was on a bus with him one time and he kept staring at me, and I looked at him thinking he'll look away, and he kept looking. Then when I finally met him, he said, "I remember seeing you on the bus and I couldn't take my eyes off you because you look like my oldest daughter," who he thought was his oldest daughter. But
Oh
I'm
wow.
older, in case you're looking. If you're looking,
Wow.
Kathy, I'm older than you.
Wow. That it is amazing how genetics work. Because the sister that we didn't grow up with when we met her, she looks exactly like our grandmother, like our father's mother. She looks, and none of us look like our grandmother. She looks exactly like our grandmother. So that's genetics.
Yep.
Mhm.
And
That's,
I always thought I have freckles, and I always thought they came from the white side of my family. My birth mother was white. But then when I met my father's side of the family, they all have freckles. And they were like, "Look, she got her freckles." So it
oh,
was like kind of a stamp or like a tattoo. God tattooed me so that my family would recognize me when they saw
Well,
me.
I wish we could talk longer, but it is already 8:30, at least 8:30
Okay.
my time.
7:30
But
Central, so.
yes,
Mhm.
but I would love it if you could just remind everybody where they can find your book. I did put your website in the chat, and somebody else, who was that? Oh, somebody else. Oh, Mary Terrace. She put your other website where from Strive Publishing into the chat. So we have two different ways where we can find your book.
Yes, so you can go to strivepublishing.com or colnesehendon.com to find
Mhm.
the book. And it'll be published in March. So it's not out yet, but it's coming very soon.
But is
Oh,
it
okay.
available for pre-order?
It's a pre-order,
Yes,
okay.
pre-order.
Wonderful.
Please do. Please pre-order, people.
Yes, pre-order. That is big. She can debut as a #1 bestseller if we pre-order the book.
Order her book.
Let's do this.
All right,
Well,
well,
thank you so
Colnese,
much for having me. I appreciate it. I enjoyed myself with you, and I hope you did too.
Oh,
well,
thank you for being
You
with
have a
us.
very fascinating story. We appreciate you being a guest on Black Authors Matter TV.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Okay, good night. Well, moving right along, but I think I'm gonna do my housekeeping notes like one at a time because it'll take too long to do them all in one segment. But the first thing I want to announce is that we have the author and the date for our next book club kickback. So when we do the book club kickback, we pick one book, we have book clubs read the book, and you all in the audience can read it as well. Then we have the author on to discuss the book. So the book club kickback is on March 22nd. The book we're reading is by Rashonda Tate Billingsley, and it's called Miss Pearlie's Girls. That's her new book that will be out on February 22nd. So we'll have roughly, I think it's February 22nd when it comes out, but I know March 22nd is the date of the kickback. So you'll have roughly a month to read the book like we normally do, and then we'll discuss it that night. So my other updates I will say for after this interview. Yeah, and we're going to be interviewing Mr. Elmo Hudson. Now he's logged in twice. I don't know which one's going to be the best one. And he has a memoir as well. Mr. Hudson was supposed to be on the show previously, but we had a scheduling conflict of some kind. So he is also a former boxer, and his memoir is about Alzheimer's. It's called
Now, how did you do that, Mr. Hudson?
First Survival of Alzheimer's Healed by the Holy Spirit. I think you have your phone upside down, or let's see how the other device is going to work.
He's gone now.
Yeah. No, he's on twice, but he's not. He's logged in twice. So the one of them dropped off. But I'm just gonna say a little bit about, he says he was diagnosed in 2008 and he was bedridden for years. So, and he was healed of his Alzheimer's miraculously, and it's confirmed with medical evidence. Out of, I think he said 50 million people worldwide who've been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And he said he's proven what living a Christian life can accomplish. So he's going to tell us about that, as well as his career in boxing when he comes on, when he comes back. And since we're waiting on him, I can do one more announcement until he comes on. And that is for our throwback week. We're starting off Black History Month. Our first show in February is February 1st, because that's the date of the first Tuesday. And we're doing a throwback week. And what we're doing is we're having some authors on the show that week who we haven't heard from in a while. They were writing a lot in previous years, and they've kind of taken a hiatus. So we'll get updated on what they're doing today, if they're still writing, if they're planning to write in the future or whatever. So the guests that we have that night are Margaret Johnson Hodge, Mark Lacey, Vincent Alexandria, and Evelyn Palfrey. And they've all written different kinds of books. Margaret Johnson Hodge had more like mainstream fiction. I think Mark did poetry. He did a lot of poetry books and some other types. I forgot exactly what he did. I think Vincent did more mystery thriller books. And Evelyn Palfrey wrote historical stories. And she took a hiatus, I know, when she started having grandchildren. So, but we're going to find out where each of these authors are in terms of publishing and writing and what they're doing with their careers. And that will be on February 1st. Then my personal blog tour is in January and February, and my February blog tour schedule is on the National Black Book Festival's Facebook page. You can scroll down a little bit and see. I'm having a lot of blogs post about either something I've written or something about my latest children's book, Boss Women. So, or they, like, one of them reviewed my book and they posted the review and they gave it a 5-star rating. So
I saw that. Congratulations.
thank you. And then February, I'm doing some other things. So I'm going to post the February schedule later when it gets closer to February. But I'm enjoying the book tour. So Mr. Hudson, he did log back in, but he's still not on camera. So while we're waiting for him to come on, I have one more announcement. We're going to be doing, this year, we're having a new Children's Book Award. We have the Black Authors Matter TV Awards, and those will be, the scheduling for that will be the closing week for the last show that will be included in terms of interviews will be the show from March 1st. So everything from March 9th of last year to March 1st of this year, all of those interviews will be included in the nomination process that people will vote on. And the concluding, the grand conclusion to that process is the award show that will happen on May 17th. But we also have a new Children's Book Award that we're going to be doing. And I'll tell more about that in the coming weeks. But it will be an awards process, and it will be announced. The winners will be announced at the Children's Festival at the October festival. But the process for submitting and all of that, because it's going to be a submission process where there'll be judges and there'll be finalists, and then the winners will be announced, and it all will be judged. But it will be for African-American children's books, either authored books by African-Americans, or it can be a book with an African-American theme, even if the author is not Black. So we don't really have many awards that highlight Black children's books. There's the Coretta Scott King Book Award, and that is really the only one that focuses exclusively on books by African-American authors for children. And there are a lot of people publishing children's books now. They just don't get that much exposure. So we want to provide some exposure for those books, as well as award people who are doing really good work. So
Lydia wants to know what's the name of the book for the book club kickback.
Oh, it is Miss Pearlie's Girls. So MISS, and then Pearlie is PEARLY''S. Girls is by Rashonda Tate Billingsley. And it's going to be March 22nd when we discuss the book. But the book doesn't come out until toward the end of February. So that'll give people a heads up. You can download it or purchase the actual book, and that'll be our next kickback. And for the book clubs,
again.
Yeah, for the book clubs that participated in the kickback with Tamron Hall, we have the autographed books, the ones who ordered books. So we're going to be shipping them out in the next day or two, and you'll get them soon. You'll get your autographed books soon. So we're still waiting on Mr. Hudson to log on.
Yeah, I think he's having trouble with his camera.
Yeah, because it's upside down. All he has to do is just turn it right side up, or turn it 180 degrees. Is that what it would be? Yeah.
Yeah, 180.
180, and he'll be right side up. So, Mr. Hudson, if you're watching, turn your, because we can see we can see it, but it's upside down. So we can't see you, we can't see your whole face. And what we can see is upside down. So if you're watching, hopefully we can get that corrected before our time runs out. Let me see if I have anything else to announce. I think that's it. The kickback, the throwback week, and our new children's book award. And I'll tell you a little bit about the children's book award since I have time. It is going to be called the Jerry Pinkney Children's Book Awards.
Oh.
And is named after the world-renowned African-American children's book illustrator, Jerry Pinkney, who passed away last year. And the purpose is to give recognition to children's authors who are really doing great work. And so the books will be, we'll have several different categories. The books all have to be published either in 2021 or 2022. And authors can submit in multiple categories if they choose, but for each category, it'll be broken down between K through grade 6 and then age 12 plus. And we'll be awarding the best cover and the best content in, I think we have 7 categories. So we're looking forward to it. And the process, we expect the process to start in March. The deadline for submitting is going to be June 6th. And then again, the award itself will be announced. The winners will be announced October 22nd. So there'll be quite a few winners because we have different categories, we have different age brackets. And then there's going to be one grand prize winner who will win a cash prize. So
love cash.
Yeah. So if you haven't written your book yet and you're thinking about writing a book, this can be some motivation for you if you get an illustrator, because that's really the difficult part about children's books. Or if you have a book in progress, then this is something that you can participate in as far as submitting your book for the awards process. And all of the books that are submitted will be donated to an African-American library here in Houston, the Shepherd Acres Home Public Library in Houston. We've already talked to them and they're excited about receiving the books. So that's a book donation that we'll be able to do to help children in, and we might move it around to different cities, not the festival. But I want to make that clear. The festival is not moving anywhere. But
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Did somebody else have a question?
Yes. She wants to know if there is a Jamaican Caribbean children's story, or if Jamaican and Caribbean children's stories are eligible for the competition.
Yes, as a matter of fact, there's a category that we have called African diaspora. So yes, they would be eligible. Awesome. It don't have to be in the United States. We don't have a United States stipulation as far as the authors that can submit.
Wonderful.
So,
And also I put the application for the 8th and 9th grade essay contest into the chat. So if you have an 8th or a 9th grader who would like to enter the contest, they do win a cash prize and they will be published in a national magazine. So we want to make sure that we give all of our kids the opportunity to be a part of this. So make sure you download that application and get it to your kids.
that's great. So for your essay for the Black History Month, did you have a topic?
Yes, I have one topic for 8th graders and one for 9th graders. For the 8th graders, the topic is, what is a Black history fact about your town? So, many of us have a lot of Black history about our towns that we don't even realize. So I wanted an 8th grader to be able to write something that many people may not know about their city. And then for 9th graders, the topic is, what is something in Black history that you feel that everyone should know?
Okay, that's good. Those are good topics.
Right. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. These kids really come out for these contests. And we actually have people who was actually, one of the people is actually supposed to be a sponsor for the Black History Month Literary Weekend, but since we're not doing it, she's going to be a reader for the essay contest. So I'm really looking forward to this. And we'll probably do some type of virtual thing so they can get the recognition that they deserve for this.
Oh, okay. That's great. I'm going to go off camera for about 10 seconds and I will be right back.
All right. So now that Gwen is gone, see what's happening.
My stuff fell down. Ooh, my stuff fell. Okay.
Oh goodness. But no, everybody, I really think that the children's book contest is really awesome. And for the kids, the 8th and 9th grade essay contest, these are some great opportunities. And that's one of the things that I really like about this show, is that we provide a lot of opportunities and then we make you aware of other people's opportunities. So that's what Black Authors Matter TV is all about. So make sure you get out there, take advantage of these opportunities and support the authors that we bring onto this show. I say this all the time, that these authors will not become best-selling authors unless we support them. And no, people may not even know about a book unless we write a review. So that's what we're asking. Just continue to support, and supporting doesn't always cost money. Sometimes it just means sharing the information. So make sure you guys do that. Let's see. I also mentioned that a graduating senior essay contest or scholarship. It is not on the street yet, but next month I will be posting the application for the graduating senior scholarship. And I don't care if you feel like you have a full ride, many times you need this money because books cost money. I'll tell you, my daughter is always needing money for books because these books are expensive. One book can cost like $300 sometimes. Oh, Mary, you asked if there was a flyer for the contest. I did post the link to the essay contest, and the flyer is on the website. So you can get that there. Now that you're back, Gwen, just in time, is there an essay, or excuse me, is there a flyer for the Black Children's Book contest just yet?
There will be one. It's not developed yet. So, but yeah, there will be a flyer. And I had meant to be gone for 10 seconds, but I had a mishap. I knocked over my little stand with all my stuff on it. So as soon as I said I'll be right back, I knocked over everything. But the reason for me being off and coming back was I wanted to make people aware that my the 2022 edition of my debt-free college book is available. It's available on Kindle and paperback. And I am donating a copy to each of the winners of your essay contest.
Oh, that is amazing.
Each one of them will receive a copy. This book has over 300 scholarships in it. And it has the whole process for how you go to college debt free. I need to put it where people can see.
Just put it right in front of you. Yeah.
Okay.
There we go.
I have to hide my face in order to show the book. But I will be sending the 2 copies to Rhonda, and she can distribute them to the winners of her essay contest.
Oh, that is
So,
amazing. I will be making that official announcement tomorrow. That's an even bigger reason to be a part of this contest, because you might get a scholarship that's going to be worth way more than the money I'm going to be giving you. You
yeah,
never know.
there's all kinds of scholarships in here,
Yeah.
of all dollar amounts. And my daughter went to undergraduate out of state, 4 years, no debt, $30,000 a year. She went debt free because of scholarships, because of this process that I utilized. And I didn't leave anything out. I didn't hold anything back. Everything that I did, I let people know in this book. And so this
One
book,
thing I did want to point out, Gwen, because I bought your book last year and gave it to my daughter. And don't think just because you have a prior copy of Gwen's book that you're good to go. Because what my daughter found when she went back through the book, she's like, a lot of these scholarships aren't good anymore. So it's very important to get the most updated information, because just because a scholarship was around last year does not mean it's going to be around this year.
right.
So
And that's why I do an update every January, because I go through the entire book, the previous edition. I make sure the ones that are no longer valid, they get removed. And throughout the year, I add new ones to the manuscript so that it's always current. And yes, some of them may no longer be valid, but it's going to be 90% if you have the new edition.
Right.
You know, you'll get it'll be 90% of them that are still applicable. And there are always new ones coming on board. There are always new scholarships that are announced. And so I try to keep people up to date. The original edition of this book was nominated for an NAACP Image Award. So I've stuck with the same format. The only difference in this edition, this is 2022. The one that was nominated was a 2014 edition, which was the first one. The main difference is the scholarships are updated. Any other information that's updated, and as far as the front matter of the book, the how-to, if any information is becomes obsolete or whatever, or changes, I make changes with the book. But I stay on top of, even though my daughter has graduated from college, undergraduate in 2018, I still stay on top of the scholarship and debt-free college, the whole movement, mission. What I tell people now, right now, there's been a pause because of COVID. There's been a pause on the interest and the payments for student loans. But I hope people are not just pausing, because during this pause, you can be making payments and all your payments will go toward the principal, which is really what you want. So I hope you're still making payments. I know they extended it to
They extended it to
May. They extended it to
Okay.
May. They just recently extended it to May. So now I think this may be Mr. Hudson coming back under a different name. Although we only have 7 minutes left.
So we're gonna make this the best
We're
7
gonna
minutes.
make it the best 7 minutes we can. So we'll see. It's the audio is trying to connect right now. But yes, Rhonda, I will send you 2 copies of the book, and then you can.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we are hoping that we can meet Mr. Elmo Hudson. We can see you. Can you hear us? See, I don't see the little microphone.
Audio.
The little microphone's not, okay, not there.
There we go. Can you hear us?
You can talk to her.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi,
Yeah,
Mr. Hudson.
Hi.
We're sorry we had some technical difficulties, but we have you on now. The only
Okay.
thing is we only have 5 minutes left in our time
Okay.
segment.
That's good.
But do you have a copy of your book with you?
Oh yeah. Yes. Both copies. Same
Okay.
book. One is
Okay.
Okay, now
let's see.
move the camera down. We're looking at the
Okay.
ceiling, I think. Okay,
oh
keep the
okay, right there.
camera down so we can see.
Oh like
There-
that.
Okay, yes, that's perfect. Okay, great.
Okay.
Now you talk about how you were healed from Alzheimer's. And
Yes.
in 20, what year was it? 20, I had
2015.
2015, and now we're at 2022.
I was supposed to be dead on 6/20/2015. I died on 6/23/2008. In 7 years,
Okay,
I'm supposed to be bedridden. Now, sealed by the Holy Spirit, confirmed with Hermetic evidence on 5/9/2012, 6/26/2014, and 8/18/2015. Out of 50 million people worldwide, and 5.3 right here in the United States of America, only one they got chose to heal from the incurabilities of Alzheimer's to this day. That's my
okay,
testimony. But it wasn't only Alzheimer's, but 26 years of high blood pressure, 26 years under psychologist, 21 years under psychiatrist, at least 7 hospitalization and mental hospital. Everything went away. At that same time, the Holy Spirit came on me on my way home from the church convention in Louisville, Kentucky. Soon I hit the exit to go on the highway to go to the bridge. The Spirit of God come on me and I start crying, moving my body about 2 or 3 times and just lift up. No tears, no nothing. But and come back. And I did about 3 hours and I knew God helped me for everything. And sure did.
Amen. Amen.
well, that is amazing. And you also had a boxing career for
Yes,
several years.
Yes, I was Michigan Capital City first African American Boxer of the Year and awarded the New Evidence Appreciation Trophy May Sports Memories from 1966. I mean, like 1946 to 1966. Only one that qualified, awarded the New Evidence Appreciation Trophy, Boxer of the Year, and May Sports Memory, and first time 3 state champions in the same weight class. And one was a knockout key, knocking out everybody. Only one ever beat him. And there was another state champion. And I outboxed him, and that's how I was nominated for the Boxer of the Year, first African American Boxer of the Year in Lansing, Michigan.
Okay, in Lansing, Michigan. So what weight class were you in?
126 featherweight.
Okay, 126 featherweight.
Yeah,
Okay.
126. That's right. And I went through a 17-year civil rights lawsuit against General Motors. And I was blessed with out of court settlement. No one said it could be done. And all 3 of my kids, they got Social Security. And they got $13,000. There's 3 of them. They got $13 together, and then $200 some dollars a month until they graduate from high school or turn 18 years old. So that was a lesson there, and I was awarded.
So you have all of that in your book?
Yes. Yeah.
Is all of that? Is all of that covered in your book, or what is your book cover in terms of the time?
It's about 17 years civil rights lawsuit, not 7, right? But being healed from the incurabilities of Alzheimer's. This one here, and this picture here was Bob Avery, who's the executive director of Great Sports Hall of Fame. I boxed him in 1964 for district championship, and we just had a boxing reunion just a few weeks ago.
Okay, so when you said you had 2 books?
Yes. Here's my first book, Boxer of the Year, Hudson versus GM.
Okay, now we can't see we need to have the camera on it. Okay, Boxer of the Year, okay. And that's about your boxing career.
Yes, and the 17-year civil rights lawsuit against General Motors from 1983 until the summer 2000.
So beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I never lost the faith, and I was blessed. That's all of it.
Well, it took a lot of faith for you to overcome Alzheimer's, because normally once somebody has that, it's irreversible.
That's right. That's true.
Progressive.
That's right. They got medical records 5 times. Twice I was diagnosed with it. Twice over. First time was 6/22. I said in 7 years you'll be bedridden, but by taking the medication, slow down a couple of years. I took one order, one prescription. And I had about 3 left, and I said, well, I'm not going to take it anymore. So all the prayers that I've had answer and everything. I said, I'm just trust Jesus Christ.
Amen.
So my next appointment was on 1/20/2011. He said, your condition is steady deteriorating. And he didn't want me to drive without a professional driver saying it's okay for me to drive. And he wanted me to be on a DPOA, do a power of attorney. But when I had to experience the Holy Spirit and on 5/9/212, he said, it's nothing there. You know, he couldn't believe it. And so he gave me another appointment on 6/26/2004. He's still nothing there. Gave me another appointment on 8/18/2015. And here's what he said. It's yet to be seen on 5/9/2012. He said, this is yet to be seen if this is an unconventional cure for Alzheimer's, the Holy Spirit. It is.
Okay, well,
That's
we wish we had more time, but we have another guest that's scheduled for 8. But we do want to make sure people know how to get a copy of your books.
Yeah, okay. You can order from Arthur House Publishing Company, Barnes and Noble, and Amazon.
Okay.
And I did an interview with Al Cole, the number 1 interviewer in the United States, and I'm on YouTube and MP4.
Okay.
So
We did put your links in the chat, and people will be able to click on there and get your book too, correct?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. And I'm sorry we didn't have more time to talk with you, but I'm glad we were able to get your get a little mention in about your books.
That's right. That's good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
Right, and you're also participating in our Black History Month promotion. So we'll be in touch with you about that.
Okay.
I spoke with you about that, I think today.
Okay.
So,
okay.
All right. Well, take care, Mr. Hudson.
Yeah, you too.
And you have a good
Thank
evening.
you
And
very
God
much.
bless you.
God bless you. Amen.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Good night.
Good night.
All right. Well, our next guest, when I dropped when I had my mishap, all my papers got rearranged, but okay. Our next guest is also a Stride Publishing author. So Stride Publishing is based in Minneapolis, and that was the publishing house that Colnese is with, Colnese Hendon, who was our first guest. And Mary Terrace is the founder of it, and it's based in Minneapolis. And I think most of her authors are from Minneapolis as well. But this next guest is Ricardo Peters, and he has a young adult fantasy book that he's going to tell us about. So as soon as he gets all the way live, as we used to say, but all my stuff got rearranged.
The name of his book is Under a Cloven Sky. So the name of his book is Under a Cloven Sky.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to tell us what the book is about. And while he's coming on, after Ricardo, our final guest, we have two guests together, Ciara Hill and Veronica Chapman. They are the collaborators behind the Black Children's Book Week, which is the end of February, the first week in March. So they're going to tell us about what that entails and the activities and so forth that are surrounding Black Children's Book Week. Last week we had someone with the Black Child Book Fair. We had Daryl Harvey, who had the Black Child Book Fair, and he moved that around. So we'll see what people are doing, all kinds of things with books. So we want to find out about what the Black Children's Book Week is all about. So Ricardo is logged in, but he's not on camera yet. And
Ricardo, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can.
Can you turn your camera on so we can see
you planning to be off camera or?
Let me see how.
Okay.
I apologize. It's a brand new phone, so I'm trying to make everything.
Oh, the sound went off there.
Oops.
No, he's still there.
Well, no, he went off and he came back on.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to turn my camera on.
Okay, do you not see a little camera at the bottom that you can tap on?
I do not.
I thought when you joined the meeting, I thought the camera was automatic.
Well,
Well,
we can just roll with it.
yeah, we can do an audio. We can do it just
Yeah.
strictly audio.
Okay.
That's
Yeah,
not,
unfortunately, I don't know how. I don't have
It's
too many Zoom
okay.
meetings.
Can you see us?
Yeah, I can see both of you. Yes.
Okay.
oh, okay. Oh, wow. All right. Well, Ricardo, tell us about your book, your young adult fantasy book, and what made you write in this particular genre?
Fantasy's always been my preferred genre. I'll write anything that's like got a good story to me, and I've always been interested in kind of the fantasy genre, the maybe quote unquote nerdy, geeky kind of stuff. So I just started writing, and that kind of just led me to here, where I had this story finished and completed, and wanted to keep going with it. And I enjoyed it for myself, and I'm hopeful that other people will enjoy it as well.
Okay. So what's the book about? Tell us the storyline.
I kind of tried to start with just a basic story. So there's a princess, not necessarily like a pauper love interest, and they're kind of just them against the world and like what's expected of them, and just circumstances that they have to deal with together. They live in a kingdom that kind of gets attacked, and they have to flee for their lives and then survive in a situation that neither of them is used to.
So is your book like, is it futuristic of America? Is it another world, another planet? What's the setting for your book, for your story?
It's not based on reality, so it's not our world. It's another world, but based in reality. It's like magic exists, but it's not prevalent. It would be more past setting. Transportation, like they used horses, that kind of thing. Weapons are swords and shields.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what is your background? Are you like, what led you to write your book? Have you been writing like as a kid? Did you take it in college, or did you excel in it in high school, or what made you write the book that you wrote, but just what made you write a book, period? And is this your only book, or do you have other ones?
This is the only published book. I have completed the second, but it hasn't been published yet. So in working on the third. But no, I've always been writing. I've been writing since I was a kid. When I was very young, I was using stickers from my Transformers magazines to make my own stories and stapling them together, always showing them to my friends and family. So I always knew that like being an author is what I wanted to do. And I was like, so I'm going to do that regardless. And I just kept doing it. I went to college, North Park University in Chicago. I got a creative writing major there. And yeah, like I've always been writing, and I've always been kind of editing my own work and never really feeling like it was good enough. And Strat Publishing gave me the opportunity to actually put it out there and kind of force myself to put it out there. Because if it had just been me, I don't know if I ever would have taken that step on my own. But yeah, I've always known that I was going to be a writer one way or the other.
Oh, okay. So now the book that you are working on, or the next book, is it related to this first book, or is it a totally separate standalone story?
Oh no, they are all three related. They follow each other sequentially. So
is there like a main character that is in each book?
Yes. So Karma, the princess character, is basically the main character, and then Suzerain, her protector, her guardian, is, I would say, co-main character. And yeah, the stories focus on them, but there's a lot of other characters that are just part of the story.
What is the age of your average reader?
I believe we were going for young adults. I wasn't necessarily thinking of that when I wrote it. I tried not to be too graphic in any type of way, but I also tried not to, I guess, pull my punches as far as like the story was what was important. So I believe young adult. I had a class that read the book, and they were, I want to say, 7th, 8th grade, but it was a progressive school, so they had different ages in the class, but they all seemed fine. No one was traumatized or anything like that by reading it. So
So,
I would say all ages, yeah.
Okay.
oh, okay. Now are you in Minneapolis or the Minneapolis area?
Yes.
Okay. So did you grow up in Minneapolis?
I was born in Minneapolis, and then we moved to Maple Grove, so northwest suburbs.
So did you grow up just having a love for fantasy type fiction?
Yes. Like I said, I can appreciate any story, but yes, I was drawn to fantasy. The whole Dungeons and Dragons, that kind of thing. I never actually played the game, but I liked the stories. I liked having like the monster manual and reading just the lore on things. So I always found that really interesting.
Okay.
Okay.
So it seems like the fantasy genre
Right.
has taken off, like, well, the last 20 years, I want to say, of course, Harry Potter and all of that. I don't read that or watch it, but I know it's big. And I know, who do you feel like were your influences, writers or storytellers of any kind, of movie, theater, storytellers? Who do you see as your, motivators, or who do you read?
Honestly, like I said, anything I can get my hands on. David Gemmell is a very big. I'm a very big fan of his work. I'm a fan of Lovecraft. They're doing like the Wheel of Time series now on TV. Robert Jordan was a very big influence on me. Fortunate for his passing. But
It's interesting
yeah.
that you mentioned Lovecraft Country. I know that was really, really popular last year. And I think it kind of awakened a new interest in African American fantasy fiction. So I think your book may wind up riding that wave. Do you think?
Oh, that would definitely be a good thing. I hope so. Like, I couldn't claim that I write in the same style as Lovecraft or the things he wrote about, but he was an influence in me being interested in fantasy and things of that nature.
Right, right. So he's an inspiration. Who are some other authors or directors who are inspiration to you in that fantasy realm?
Like I said, Robert Jordan. I like Mercedes Lackey. I read all the like Dragonlance and Forgotten Realms books, all those kind of classic swords and dragons type stories. I read the Magic books, the Warhammer books.
Okay. Wow. So this world is foreign to me, as far as I hear about it, but I don't read it. Although I have gotten 2 books as a result of people being on this show, but I haven't read them yet. They're in my to be read shelf. They're on my to be read shelf that I
Gotcha.
pull out books. But I'm open to giving it a try. It's just not like a natural thing for me. It's not a genre that I read, and I rarely watch that kind of movies, or I like more more contemporary real life things. I like espionage and things like that, the CIA. I like,
Oh no, I understand. Yeah.
crime shows. I guess you can probably turn crime into well, people have turned it into a fantasy. but what do you think are some of the elements of a good fantasy book? Like what makes a fantasy book good? I mean, what pulls people in, readers?
Well, I mean, going off of what you just said, I think that's a great thing about fantasy is you can take that espionage or any aspect from real life and just add a fantasy element to it. Like you can do all that in a fantasy world and, put the spin on it of it's happening in this type of world, which I think is something interesting about fantasy is you may
Yeah, I
not
think
have
it's
like,
really creative for people to be able to create a whole nother world, in
exactly.
their mind, in their imagination. And then, you have to create the scenery, the time, the creatures, the people, the costumes.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, so you said you like movies like the CIA and stuff like that. You
Mhm.
can have a fantasy style CIA, you can have the same Mission Impossible setting with the traps, but maybe have it be some kind of creature or something distinct to that world. So I think that's interesting when you let someone be creative like that
Mhm.
and put their own spin on things.
I'm not a big fantasy reader, but I do like the creativity that you're able to exercise in a fantasy story. You can make your characters larger than life, and then you can take run of the mill things like, crime or even love or what have you, and just kind of build on it and build on it, and then make it into this whole fantasy story. So I mean, I like the way fantasy writers do that. Something I've always
Exactly.
admired.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of comic books too, and I like that about comic books is they can take a real life, just normal everyday, just issue between people and explore that, but then also have things that you wouldn't find in a normal everyday situation that affect it further.
Mhm. Now, how did you get connected with Stride Publishing?
I was actually a student with Miss Mary's daughter in high school.
Oh, okay.
And so she's a family friend. So I've known her for a long time. And then when she started up Strive, she knew that I was a writer, that I was a creative writing major. And she asked me if I had anything that, I had ready to present or that she could look over. And I was, like I said, I was like, yeah, I've been sitting on this for a while, just tweaking it over the years. So I presented that to her, and that's how we got to where we are now.
Oh, well, that's great.
It worked out.
Yeah, it's great to have that connection. And where the timing was right. A lot of things that happen with books, it's about the timing.
Yes, true, very true.
But people also can create something new whose time has come.
Mhm.
There are things that there are genres that kind of take off. There's some of the consistent ones that we see year after year, like romance, that's like forever.
Yeah.
And even the historical romance, a lot of that's like forever. But some of the other genres are have either exploded. Just urban fiction was something that was not a thing until like the early 2000s. It wasn't really. I mean, there was urban fiction in the past, like way back, but it wasn't called urban fiction. It wasn't a genre. They were just books that people would buy. Normally, you had to buy them through the mail, but like the old Iceberg Slim and those books, that was
Right.
like a precursor to today's urban fiction, but it wasn't a genre, and you couldn't go in a bookstore and buy it. So there's always people doing new creative things, and it sounds like you're part of that whole movement with the fantasy?
I'm absolutely trying to be.
So what are your like, how do you create your characters? Like, how did you decide who your characters were going to be and what role they played in the story?
Oh, that is kind of hard to answer.
Is it?
Well, for me, when I was little, my teacher, Mr. Fletcher, he had us do mind maps where we would just have a base idea and then, circle it and then just spiderweb off with different elements about that topic or that character. So it's really a growing thing in my head where I'll create a base plain character, and then as the story progresses, they progress and they evolve into who they want to be. Like, I've had so many characters that I was like, I'm eventually going to kill them off, and then we get to that point in the story and they're like, no, I'm not going nowhere. I have other characters who I thought were important, and it's just like, nah, it's time for them to go right now. Like, so I can't decide like how they're going to be, who they end up to be. I have a base idea, but they kind of write themselves for me, for how I write.
All right.
And that happens in a lot of genres that are fiction based.
Yeah.
Where the characters kind of take over and from the
absolutely.
writer, and they sort of determine their fate or the course of whatever they're going to be doing. And you might start off with one idea, but then midstream, it becomes something else entirely. So
yes, exactly.
That happens.
Well, we have a few minutes left. Do you think maybe you could like read us the back of the book, or maybe give us a passage from the book?
Sure.
Yeah, since we can't see the cover,
right?
For this purposes of this show, but yeah, we'd like to hear some of what's in it.
What would you prefer? Because I could read the back, or I don't have like a passage prepared.
Well, yeah, then the back would probably be the best, because then you'd have to go look for a passage. And so,
right. Okay. All right. It's under a cloven sky. All right. So, in the depths of an ancient temple, a child is born beneath the auspice of cosmic phenomenon. Within a gleaming city set between sea and sand, the fate of two nations, one civil and one savage, rests upon the back of the city's young princess, Karmagant Akan. Her destiny tied to that of her protector, Suzerain Sheru, a young man as unprepared for what lies ahead as she. The two stand together in the face of a wild land of inhospitable extremes, unpredictable gods and demons, and most threatening, the divided people demanding fealty and guidance from them both. And that is it.
Okay, so we have Under a Cloven Sky, we had author Ricardo Peters, and he's with Strive Publishing, and his book is Young Adult Fantasy. And we thank you so much for being a guest on Black Authors Matter TV. And let people know how they can get a copy of your book, Under a Cloven Sky.
And we did put the link to your book in the chat, and I will put it in again for people who may have missed it.
Okay, so yeah, it's available at strivepublishing.com. I believe there's also a Kindle version available on Amazon.
Okay.
As far as I know, those are the two sources to receive it.
Okay, well, thank you so much for being a guest, and continue success with your career writing young adult fantasy books.
All right, thank you so much for having me both. Appreciate it.
All right, you have a great night. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. You too.
Take care. So we have our final two guests that are going to be coming on shortly. But for those of you who may have tuned in late, I do just want to repeat a couple of the announcements that were made about the next author book club kickback, which will be on the March 22nd show. And the book we're reading for that is Rashonda Tate Billingsley's book, Miss Pearlie's Girls, that comes out at the end of February. So for those of you who want to participate in the kickback and the discussion, you don't have to be in a book club to participate in the chat, but you have to be in a book club to be on screen with the discussion. So, but we had a good back and forth, and we always give away 3 autographed books to viewers, and you don't have to be in a book club to get to win a book. You can be a viewer and anybody can win the books. So, and we normally give away the books based on trivia questions that are from the book itself, from the storyline. So you have to have read the book, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to answer the trivia questions. So we try to, make it a little more challenging than we do for the other things. Oh, and speaking of that, we do, before we bring on our final guest, we have a book. It's a advanced reading copy of Zora Neale Hurston's essays. It was compiled by Henry Louis Gates Jr. and HarperCollins provided this to give away. So we're gonna ask a trivia question related to this, and whoever answers first in the chat, Rhonda will monitor. And here's your trivia question to win the book, and then DM your mailing address and we will ship you your copy. Here's the question. Name a title of one of Zora Neale Hurston's books. So that shouldn't be too terribly difficult. Some people may know it, and some people may have to look it up. Probably need to know it to answer first, but whoever answers first and correctly will get a copy of the advanced reading copy. And it's quite extensive. It's like 300, 400 pages. So it includes a lot of her
people may not realize that her birthday just passed. Her birthday was January 7th.
Right. I did see something about that. And maybe that's why they released this book in January.
Yes.
Commemorate her birthday. But whoever answers first can win that. And I think Mary, did Mary answer first? Well, we had 2 Marys.
Mary Terrace answered first.
She answered okay. First. Mary Terrace answered first. So Mary Terrace with Stride Publishing won the book, and we will mail it to you. I think, Mary, I have your mailing address, unless it's changed. So you don't have to DM the, just highlight it, Rhonda, so I can remember who won the book. I should remember, but I can't keep everything in my head. So anyway, we have our guests, and I don't know if both of them are going to be coming on, or just the one, because only one is logged in. But if the other one logs in, then we'll bring her on. And Veronica Chapman is who's on with us. She is going to tell us about Black Children's Book Week. And I see the logo there. Is Ciara still planning to come on, Veronica?
Yeah, she was planning to come on. So
okay, oh, there she is.
I'm surprised she's not here. Okay.
There she is. Okay. So we signed you on a little bit early. Okay. So but welcome to
Thank you for having us.
Oh, you're welcome. Welcome to Black Authors Matter TV. And we're excited about having you on to talk about Black Children's Book Week. And first, tell us the role each of you play in the organization that put it together.
So my name is Veronica Chapman, and I'm the founder of a company called Box Out that designs creative solutions to social change. And under that company is a brand called Black Baby Books that makes it easier to discover children's books with Black characters. And launched under Black Baby Books is Black Children's Book Week, which is an idea that I came up with a few months ago to work to make sure that Black children who are dealing with anti-Blackness, who are dealing with racism in school, and we know the power of representation in children's books and how powerful that can be. So I wanted to make sure we can have a week to collectively affirm and empower Black children and make sure that they're feeling an extra dose of love throughout the world.
Wonderful. I love that.
Thank you.
Okay, now Ciara, what is your role with the
Yes, so good evening, everybody. So I am one of the committee members alongside Veronica. So I have just been helping her do some behind the scenes stuff and just that creative outlet that she has, I just love. So I'm just excited to just be a part of that. And I'm really, really looking forward to the event.
Now, do you have a website for Black Children's Book Week yet?
Yeah, so the website currently, it's blackchildrensbookweek.org, and it currently leads to a form so people can sign up. And the page, it's going to be a page on Black Baby Books. People will be directed to that once it's launched this by Monday. And the point is that we want to make sure people understand that it's not an event that you go to, it's an event that you bring your best selves to. So if you're an author, you can host an event and you can do something in your sphere, and you can make sure that the children in where you're located are empowered and firm. Now, there are some events, like Ciara's hosting an event on mental health. Well, I'll let her talk about it. It's mental health in the role of books. But there are a few events that we are hosting as a committee, and then we're saying, hey, world, do your thing. If you're an author, if you're a Black author with books with Black representation, you need to be doing something. There are people in Brazil, Haiti, France, the UK who are currently organizing events, because what it is like you're inviting the world to be part of something that's bigger than whoever founded it. It's about Black children have higher rates of suicide. They're born into a world that is globally anti-Black. And it doesn't make sense that as soon as kids are born, we need to worry about how the world will treat them, how it will receive them. And so if these children have an added burden of like their childhood being, like jeopardized just because they're born Black, we need to make sure that we do more for them when they get here. And so that's what this is about.
So this is basically just a week of celebration.
Exactly.
I love it. So you can be anywhere in the world and take part in Black Children's Book Week.
Exactly. And the way it works is, so there, like I said, there's certain events that we're hosting as a committee, but there's also going to be a space on the website where people can register their books. And we will, Black Baby Books on Instagram, we're going to be promoting events that other people are hosting. And that will be great too. And there's also a Facebook group that I did an info session last week, and they're like, well, where do we meet to plan? So there's now a Facebook group where people can gather. You see people in there they're like, I'm in the UK, who wants to do something? I'm in Texas, I'm in California. And so that's the kind of movement that's happening. And I'm just grateful that when I answered the call, Ciara is one of the committee members. She responded, and now there are like hundreds of people who are doing something, which is awesome, because really, I told everyone, it's about how do we, we just need to like elevate the love in the atmosphere for Black children, and it will take more than one person. It will take a collective effort, and that's what it's about.
Yes, absolutely. I love it, because I feel like there are so many children's authors, and we were just talking earlier that there are a lot of Black children's book authors that they just don't get exposure. Right. We know that there are a lot of them out there, and they cover so many different subjects, but they don't get the same exposure as people of other races sometimes.
It's so true. And so the way that I met Ciara was one of the first customers for Black Baby Books. She advertised her book on the Black Baby Books platform. And the reason why I even started is because I'm a self-published children's book author. And when I have two books, I Know I Can, and then Ciara needs to tell you what her books are too. But my books are I Know I Can and King Khalid is Proud. And when I published I Know I Can, it was like 2015. And at the time, I would meet all these Black authors at events. And when I went to recommend them at the time, people didn't have platforms. So after getting a question 3 times, like, how do I find other books with Black characters? I said, okay, I have to create this space so I can share other books with Black characters. And that's what Black Baby Books is. And that's how I keep meeting awesome people like Ciara. And also on the committee is Sade Gordon of Huey Weed. And then we have Tiffany Fontenot. She's a literary specialist. And Kiana Saxon, she has a streaming platform for Black content for kids called Kidogo. And there's, it's just like great people I got to meet trying to build this, launch this celebration.
I have to ask this, do one of you have an Aunt Marlene?
I don't.
Okay, because Aunt Marlene says she's watching, and I was just wondering if she was one of y'all aunts.
No, but hey, Aunt Marlene. Hey, how you doing? But no,
she could be my auntie.
Right?
Hi,
how you doing?
I just thought it was cute.
Marlene Smith is her last name.
Yes,
but she said Auntie Marlene is watching. So, do you have a copy of your book with you? Your books with you, Veronica?
I have, I can definitely show them to you because I have them on the screen.
Oh, okay.
Look at you, all high tech, Miss Screen. I love that.
Well, you know,
Use that virtual background.
Right.
you know, we spent so much time on Zoom last year that I went to some of it and someone had this. I said, "Oh, that makes sense," because you try to show it in a Zoom and it.
I need
like,
to learn that.
Yeah.
You gotta teach us how to do that. That was
Right.
I will. You know what? I'll send y'all the template. You go on
Thank
Canva.
you.
You go on
From
Canva.
Canva. It's from Canva. Okay.
You create a background, you add your images, and you just upload it as a virtual background. I will send out an email
Okay.
to all y'all.
Okay.
But you have it. You have Black Authors Matter TV.
Oh yeah,
behind you, so
we have. You know, we have a viewer that creates these for most of our viewers who are authors. So,
oh, that is so nice.
her name is Mary Evans. She's a children's book author, and she is also, what can I call her? She's also our tech creative person who she's not afraid to try new things, and she
Mary is
tests them out on us.
in the chat. She said she has already shown us how to do that.
Right.
Don't worry, I'll teach y'all. I will share.
Well, I don't know
I'll share
how
my
to pop the book. I don't know how to pop the book cover up. I don't think. I don't know how
That's
to
cool.
do
I've never seen that.
Listen, I
Yeah.
am my
I mean,
sister's
I know
keeper.
how to
I
put my
beat it. I will
background.
show you how.
You won't be able to tell me anything when I learn that.
That's true. My next step is to get a green screen behind me. So that's my next move. I might have it done by next week. If I get it done, I have my stepson is techie. I'm going to ask him to do it. He doesn't even know yet. But anyway,
He better say, he's going to say yes too.
I might have it by next week. I'm hoping. So we'll see. So Ciara, tell us about your book. And your book, you had a very colorful cover because we did some promotion for you for the holidays. And your book is about the holidays. It's called Soulful Holidays. So you have your book with you. It's really
I do. I wish I was high tech like Veronica. I just got a hard copy. So hopefully, I don't know if you guys can see it because my screen.
Put it in front of your face. Like directly in front of your face.
Don't try to put it in front of your chest.
There it is. There it is.
Okay.
Very colorful.
Yep, that's Soulful Holidays right there.
I did put the link to Soulful Holidays in the chat, by the way. I need
sure
you
can.
as well, Veronica. But yeah, tell us about Soulful Holidays.
Yeah, so Soulful Holidays, I just created that because I love the joys of Christmas and Kwanzaa. And I wanted to create a book that was just about the joy, because I find that a lot of times, a lot of our books are kind of heavy, even within the children's book genre. Like my first book, Shiloh and Dandy the Lion, it's heavy. It's about anti-racism and skin color and all of that. I wanted something that showed the simplicity of just the joy that Black and African-American families experience, because we are also happy and we are also joyful and we do laugh. Because if you were to do a Google search on African-Americans, it's a lot of negativity. Yes. You know, we don't see enough positive images, whether it's children or adults. And so I wanted to just really capture that in a simplistic way, but in a relatable way. And so I feel that with that book, even if someone doesn't celebrate Christmas or Kwanzaa, that the act of togetherness would be something that would appeal to them, or they'd be able to relate to some of the food that I talk about or some of the music that I highlight. So that's why I wanted to just create something just fun, something that could bring the family together, something that the family could do the night before a holiday, you know, and make a new tradition or add to traditions that they already have. So that was kind of my thought process behind Soulful Holidays. When I wrote Shiloh and Dandy the Lion, which was my first book that came out, I wrote that before all the things happened with George Floyd and all that, because it just wasn't enough Black boys that were positively highlighted as the protagonist in books. And so I have a son named Shiloh, which I named the book after, and I just wanted to be able to show him and other little kids that there are positive books out there with Black boys on the cover, because we didn't have that. You know, growing up, I couldn't think of one book that I read that had a Black child as the protagonist, let alone a Black author. So I wanted to just have a little piece of the pie to try to change some of that narrative the best that I could. So being able to team up with people like Veronica, who's very innovative and who's coming up with things like Black Children's Book Week and Black Baby Books was something that I was 100% on board for, because she really shares in that same type of vision that I have to transform the way that Black children are looked at, not just in the United States, but throughout the world. And I feel like if we aren't going to be the ones to do that, who is at this point? We have to be the ones to do it. And I know, Dr. Lawson, I think you mentioned something about with Black authors, especially not really getting that platform like other people get. And I'm determined to try to break that barrier in the best way that I can, which is just doing everything I can to be behind the scenes and in front of the camera to try to help change that narrative.
And she's super great at it.
Thank you, Veronica.
I can see the passion in her speaking. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tell us how you all right, let's say I'm sitting over here in the DMV chilling and stuff. And I want to take part in Black Children's Book Week. What do I do?
If you want to take part in Black Children's Book Week, you go to blackchildrensbookweek.org. And when you fill out that form, it says, I'm a parent of a Black child, I'm an advocate for a Black child, I'm an author, I'm a publisher of books for Black children. It asks you exactly who are you, right? And when the official website launches on Monday, everyone will get an email, and they'll be, and collecting that information is great. So it lets us know what kind of information do we need to have, and it lets us know how to direct people. So if you're an author, some people are like, I want to promote my book. We know where to send them. I want to host an event. Well, there's an events page. I'm a parent. Well, here's the calendar of events that are being submitted. And a lot of them are virtual because we're still,
Yes.
Yeah.
So, the great thing about it is that you can attend an event anywhere if it's virtual. And so that way, it's a way to collect information while we're building, because it's a new idea. It came to me October 9th, and my birthday was October 10th. And I was like, it was the day before, and I was sitting here like, you know what? Black children need a holiday, because, I call it a week of celebration, but it really is, I was just thinking about even, and the thing is, if you're an adult, you know what it is to be a Black child. Mm-hmm. And for me, you know what it is to be a Black child. And I know that I was fortunate. I had a home that affirmed me. And I did face a lot of questioning of my intelligence in schools and things like that. But I was affirmed at home. And then I went to Spelman College. We both are HBCU graduates. And you go to HBCU, you can't tell us nothing.
Right.
My daughter went to one. I didn't. So you are right.
My daughter
does get questioned. I was a smart kid from 3 years old and was affirmed in my community and of course my home, church, everywhere, all through school till I got to a PWI for college. And then I was just only there because of affirmative action. And I got, you really become invisible. And you're dismissed until you break through with some sort of what the breakthrough for me was. Of course, I went and started in the wrong major, but when I changed majors to business, which is really my passion, I did have some breakthroughs in English. English was always my strong suit everywhere, and even at Georgetown in my English class. I was the only Black student, but my essay that I did stood out among the rest. And when the professor asked, he said one essay was just, she was right on target. And then he asked, who was Guinevere Day, who my maiden name was Day. And when I raised my hand, you could have the jaws dropped from those white students in the class that I had the essay, and he didn't know I was the Black student, because when those classes are big, they don't know one student from
right. You're just a number.
You're just a number. But when you have a breakthrough where you stand out, that's when you get affirmed. But it's few and far between when you're at those institutions like that.
I want to say this because I did not go to an HBCU. My daughter is about to graduate from Clark Atlanta University. So
Oh, wonderful.
My best friend went to Clark Atlanta.
Yeah.
You see love.
but one thing I can say about going to a PWI is often the Black community at those schools is a bit closer. And I think I actually learned more about my culture and more about my heritage going to a PWI because we had instructors there who were very deep in us learning our culture. And the people who I went to school with, we had a very strong Black student union there. I'm still in touch with some of the people I went to college with. And I think that's the good part about going to a PWI is because of that community, you actually, because you know that you're in a minority in this area, you wind up actually drawing closer to each other and learning more about yourself going to these schools. In fact, I even had a student who was going to Xavier, who I think it was Xavier. He went to Xavier, and he said he actually felt like we at the PWI had a better Black experience because we were a lot closer together. You know, we had that community more. Because all the kids at HBCUs, you know, almost everybody looks like you, so you can kind of separate.
Yeah, they form cliques, but that wasn't you had my experience at Georgetown was nothing affirming about it. And there wasn't even enough Black people to even affirm each other. We were so scattered and different, different. They tricked you, they invite you there for the Black weekend when you were a senior in high school. And you go that weekend thinking, wow, all these people, all these activities and fun. Then you get there and it's like, where did all the Black people go? What happened?
Yeah.
And then we did have a Black house, but it was just not enough of us to really, it was a small group. And they were dropping like flies from an academic standpoint. So by the time I graduated, out of 1,500 graduates that year, there were only about 20 or 25 Black people that actually made it through in 4 years. I was even though I changed majors, I was gonna get my degree in 4 years. I wasn't gonna be going for any extra courses, no extra semesters. I'm not graduating late. I'm getting out of here. So I went to summer school to make up so I could get out on time.
You were like, I'm getting out. Well, one thing I learned, so I went to a predominantly white high school. And I find that when you are in those settings, like you mentioned, you do congregate and you do form community around the fact that you're Black, right? And it may not be around your common interest. It may just be like, this is our shared culture and experience. And it's cool. It's fun. Like, we had community, we had parties, and it was great. But when you go to a school where, and I guess this is the difference, like an HBCU where everyone's Black, even though it's different cultures, like Caribbean and different places, different parts of the diaspora. But then you're more likely to find establish relationships around common values and interests because the fact that everyone's Black and excellent is the default. Like that's
that becomes a given. So then you gravitate to people with similar interests, or if you pledge as Rhonda,
or your freshman dorm.
that too.
So I have both experience. I know exactly what you're talking about of
all
gathering.
of my schooling from I didn't even go, they didn't have kindergarten where I lived. So, but I had really great, reinforced, I had excellent teachers all through school. I mean, all through. It's just, and I really feel for children who don't have excellent teachers, because I had excellent teachers. I mean, just the best. But, and if it hadn't been for that and just my self-confidence and, my community was behind me, and, my parents are very education oriented. They both passed, but if I didn't have a good sense of who I was, I probably, because a lot of students couldn't make it. It was too much pressure. It's nothing affirming. There's no There's nothing affirming. Well, it may
Mhm.
be now, although I've talked to some people that are later graduates from Georgetown and they tell me the same story. So I don't know.
But no, but you're
There
right
was
that it's so
nothing affirming.
it's so important that our children are affirmed. And
Yes.
for me, like I write specifically for that purpose. Like my
Mhm.
tagline is like books that make children believe in themselves, because I
Mhm.
know everyone doesn't have the same background, the same parents, you know, we just
Right.
are born into different experiences, and that's just the reality of life.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna
Mhm.
read, so when I started writing, the only reason why I did, because I said, when children read this book, Black children specifically, they're gonna feel like they just left the HBCU campus, because they're gonna be like, "Oh, I got this!" Like, you know, like. So I said, maybe they won't go to HBCU. Maybe they don't have that, you know, that foundation at home, but they'll get a dose of it when they read, and that's the only reason why I even write books. Otherwise, I would just create ideas all day.
Right.
I will say that that's what I really love about Black children's books in particular, because I think sometimes with other cultures, they're writing books about the children, about just being a kid, which is good.
Right.
We need books like that. But we also need books to help affirm our kids, because our kids in
Mhm.
particular have so many negative forces against them. And we see so many negative depictions of ourselves
Right.
on TV. We need books like this to show them that what you see on TV is not our reality. So
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
happen to love you guys' books.
Yeah. And I think too, to add what you're saying about that, in addition to that, I think it's about also having an authentic and genuine voice for someone who writes the book.
Yes.
So what I have found when I was even researching before I even wrote a book, I was seeing some books with Black characters, and I would look up the authors, and a majority of them weren't Black or a person of color at all. And it kind of shocked me, because I'm like, whoa, these are some of the most popular books out here. And, you know, it's not even through a person of color. And so I think it's also important, you know, that sometimes a person of color is also writing these books with those, you know, Black or brown protagonists, because I think it hits in a different way. It's a different voice. It's a different experience. It's a different type of authenticity, a different type of genuineness that's kind of associated with it. And that's just my personal opinion. I know people feel very different about that, but that was one thing that really shocked me in the children's book world.
It shocks me too, but it's almost like and I don't know if it's intentional. But I know that people have to think before they act, which means it is intentional. Because how would you even think to have a book about Black people and not have a Black voice writing the words in the book? You know, and it's very common. It's a lot more, especially the books that get promoted, like the books that get marketing, but a marketing push behind them.
Yep.
And then you look up and see the authors. And man, I don't have anything against other people, but it's like, okay, you all already have all those other books. Now and you want ours too.
Right.
You know,
Right.
It's just like, what's the fairness in that? You know, what is
right? Where can we fit in at? Like, what are we supposed to do?
It's not an authentic voice.
Yeah.
It's like a Barbie. You can't just paint Barbie with brown and say she's Black. The features have to match.
Right.
You know,
that's what I had when I was growing up. My Barbie was a white Barbie with some brown skin.
Oh my gosh.
I had the first Black Barbie when they gave her an afro.
Oh, wow.
I was more of a Teddy Ruxpin child, so I don't even think I played with Barbies. But me and Teddy Ruxpin and that tape in the back.
Well, for a while when we had our store run, they had a lot of the specialty. They had started a line of Black Barbies that had African clothes, and I think there was an artist that was behind it, but I don't know if they still do that. But it was a big thing, like in the early like from 2000 to maybe 2008 or 9 in there, they had a line of Black oriented Barbies that were different culturally, like, you know, some of them were African, some were Jamaican. They had like a model, you know, like a real model. I'm trying to think of the artist, but I can't now because that's been a while back. But there was an artist that had, I guess they commissioned this particular artist to do these dolls, and they were collectibles. Some people just had like tons of them.
Interesting. Huh.
I don't know where it went, but you know, things happen for a time and then they disappear.
Right.
About 5 minutes left, but let us know, how can we support the Black Children's Book Week?
Well, this is something I want everyone to do. I want everybody to think about how ridiculous it is that our children are born into a world where they have to deal with added trauma just because they're Black. So let's start there, right? Then let's think about all the time we spend responding to white supremacy and reacting to it. And so I would say anybody who wants to be proactive, anybody who wants to use their talents and gifts to make sure Black children throughout the world feel our love should go to blackchildrensbookweek.org, sign up, and then you'll be directed to anything. If you're an author, if you are a publisher, if you're a parent, you will be sent all the information. And really it's an opportunity. We said like all hands on deck. It's not, you know, we want to be clear that this is not something you come to just to be a spectator. We want people to join in. We want people to host events in their communities. We want people to, even if you're walking down the street and you see a little Black child, give an extra smile. That's celebrated Black Children's Book Week. Do what you can with what you have. And that's all we're asking. And it starts, here's the other thing. And this is like the running joke. Again, because I like to be solutions oriented. Every year, everybody's like, Black History Month is so short. It's so short every year. So I said, okay, look, we're going to extend Black History Month so we can celebrate Black children. It will always start on the last Sunday of February and go through the following week. So this year
I was going to ask you that question. What made you pick the dates you did? And you answered it.
That's why I thought it. So if you come across anybody who's like, it's the shortest month and blah, 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 you tell them it's been extended.
There we go. I always explain to people that there is a reason Black History Month is in February, and it is not because it's the shortest month of the year.
No, it just seems kind of randomly, like, you know, of all the 12 months, the one that only has.
The thing is, it was started by Carter G. Woodson, and he chose it because of the week between Washington and Lincoln's birthdays. So you had that whole week, and then it extended to the rest of the month. That's the only reason
it started off as Black History Week or Negro History Week is how it started. And then it expanded to a month. But then too, so now you're expanding it on the back end. But you know, Martin Luther King's birthday expands it on the front end, because you can really start Black History Month.
Look at it. We start celebrating Black History Month on Martin Luther King's birthday.
Right. Just keep going. And so now it's going to the end.
You just made it a little bit longer because it's gonna be what, March 5th? So we just made it from January 15th all the way through March 5th.
Yep.
There you go. That's it right there.
There it is. And one other thing I would say, we're not asking anyone to do anything they're not doing. So you probably already do something that affirms Black children. We're saying that this collective effort can be the push of love to elevate the atmosphere, to make sure that really we reach as many Black children as possible collectively. So you don't have to create anything new. You might already be doing something. We're just asking you to register that event that you already do, host it during that week, so we can say, hey, look who's celebrating with us, and promote it. So that's all it is.
I like it.
Okay, I like it too. So thank you all for being guests on Black Authors Matter TV. And for those of you all who are viewers, please support Black Children's Book Week by going to blackchildrensbookweek.org. And I know it'll be a fabulous celebration. And I plan to log on and see what I'm a children's author. I don't know if I mentioned that. Well, I'm an author of 13 books, 5 of which are children's books. So
Wonderful.
So you have a lot of options.
And that's
yeah, I
right.
do. I
You have a lot of options to
I can
celebrate.
So much.
go in there. I can go in there and see
Yeah.
how I can participate and be a part of it. I think it's
Absolutely.
a great idea. And I'm really happy that people are being creative and coming up with ideas and not sitting around and just, waiting or complaining. They're being
Right.
proactive and making something happen. And kudos to you for doing that.
Thank you so much. And also I would say if you go to on Instagram, it's Black Children's Book Week. There's a post and it says like all the ways that you can participate. So it's a checklist, a literal checklist. You can just check off the list.
Okay. All right, wonderful. Okay, well, thank you for being a guest on the show. And you'll be getting a MP4 of the interview so you can post it. It'll be a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Thank you for having us. We really,
you
really
so
appreciate the
much.
opportunity.
And I just followed you on the Instagram. Oh, I already been following you on Instagram. So I'm
Oh, really?
following you.
I'll make sure I go follow back.
Look for Meet the World Image Solutions.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll do your name. Okay, perfect. Will do. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
We appreciate it. Take care.
Have a
All
great
right.
Bye. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So that is it for this week.
Thank you.
And you're welcome. And we don't have, we're waiting on one more confirmation for next week's lineup. So I don't want to announce the lineup until we have the confirmation, but we always post the flyer a few days before the show so you can see who it will be. We're waiting on the confirmation. And Mama Tony Benito said, she said she used to collect the Black Barbies. So I knew that they were around for a while and then they just kind of disappeared. So thank you all for tuning in and we'll see you next Tuesday on Black Authors Matter TV. I'm Gwen Richardson signing off.
And I'm Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Have a wonderful evening and a blessed week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.